Hey, Brad. Just on the injury front, how did Marcus Smart feel after the Nets game?
Yeah, he felt good. Felt good. So he's been did a light workout yesterday when we arrived, and practice today. So should be good to just continue on this progression.
Brian Rupp.
Hey, Brad. Obviously, the Nets, it's no tougher offense to go against to start the second half of the year there. But defensively, where do you guys see you guys being at in that game? And just over this, last 5 or 10 games right now, where do you think you guys need to work on the most in that spot?
Yeah, I think it goes back to we just have to be as solid as possible, and we have to impact the ball better. I think that's been the case with this team each of the last 2 years. When we're at our best, we can really impact the ball, and I think that's the most important thing. There were some great examples of that in the Nets game. There were some examples of that where we really defended and they scored, and then there were some where we were just too far off of the ball, too little impact. And then we obviously got scored on some of those plays that we would consider unsolid catch and shoot plays. And so we've looked at those, and hopefully we'll defend those actions and those plays better here as we continue forward. But I was encouraged by some of the things we did. And, I thought the last 2 days we went back to some things that, you do in training camp because, we've actually had 2 days to do that.
Bob Schron. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Brandon. I had trouble with my toggle. Coach, you just talked a lot about what I was going to ask about the Nets game and reviewing the film, but the question I wanted to ask you, you've been hit with injuries and now the core is back. How difficult is it for you to establish some semblance of a rotation, given that the games come on you game after game after game? But do you have an idea now that we're like at the halfway point about who and where you go to? Thank you.
I don't think anything will be set in stone here for a little bit. Certainly as Smart's coming back into full minutes, that's a big part of this, is being able to manage kind of through that. But you saw how we tried to play him last game while he was restricted so that he'd be available at the end of the game. But yeah, I think as far as who's going to get the majority of our minutes, who the core guys are that'll play those minutes, I think certainly that's decided. And then it's a matter of how we rotate those guys to get the most out of them. We're talking every day about how to best manage, Jason's minutes, how to best manage Kimba's minutes, Jalen's minutes, et cetera, so that we can maintain our best level and who complements those guys best now that we're, for the most part, back. Got a pretty good idea, obviously, because we're almost 40 games in. But I still think that, there will be one or two guys that inevitably play more than they have recently as the season goes on. It's just kind of the way that it works. So I'm looking forward to seeing who separates themselves.
Hey, Brad, you had talked about playing Marcus in those short spurts. What will it take for him to just start playing a regular run when he gets out there?
It's whatever the trainers say, whatever Marcus and the trainers, when they come up with their plan of attack minutes wise, as long as it's limited the way it is, those shorts, those stints are going to be shorter. The purpose of a minutes restriction is obviously to make sure that you rank back up appropriately with a muscular injury, but it's also because you're not able to play longer stints because your conditioning is not where, it will be when you're, 10, 15 games in.
John Krause.
Brad, how are you feeling about the flow between Jalen and Jason and Kemba offensively? Obviously, you guys are a lot more isolation this year. Do you feel like, with the growth of Jason and with the growth of Jalen, that these guys have found a rhythm at all together?
Well, I thought we were great offensively in those last 4 games before the break. So I don't want to overreact to necessarily this game, but listen, I think we've got to do a better job as a team of helping Kemba. And I've said that several times this year. I think that it's really important that we, put him in position to have success and play to his strengths. And I think he does a great job. He's so unselfish that he will, he will defer, but we need him to be the guy that he can be. And I think, scoring and keeping defenses on their heels and actions for him and secondary actions for him. And when a play breaks down, getting the ball to the second side is really important. So obviously those guys are our 3 scorers that we go to the most. And, I think for us to be any semblance of, to have a realistic shot at anything significant, they all have to be playing very, very well.